Hey you guys, welcome back to Racket City Yardstead. If you're new here, my name is Sarah. Welcome. So today we're actually going to make canned sloppy joes. I was doing some inventory of my canned goods and realized I am getting low on some of our pantry staples, things I like to call our homemade fast food. We have quite a few food sensitivities in our house if you are new. And so from that perspective, going out to eat is kind of hard in the first place. And fast food is expensive these days. So we like to make our own. One of the things we really love is sloppy joes. We love home canned chili. What are some other things? We've done beef stroganoff before, and they're just things that we can pull off the pantry shelf, heat up quickly, and not have to worry about having dinner if we don't feel good or we don't have time to make something. And so I need to get some more of these things on my pantry shelf. So we're getting 4 pounds of ground beef into our pot right now, and we are going to brown this up. This is really simple. Just need a few hours on an afternoon or a morning, and you can have a good amount of food on your pantry shelf. So I'm going to use my handy tool here, break this up a bit, and we'll let this brown. It will take a while with that much meat. So while that's going, we're going to get some of our other ingredients together. One of the ingredients that our sloppy joes calls for is green bell pepper. I actually have quite a bit of bell pepper still chopped up in my freezer from last year in my garden. And so this is a great way to use that up because it's going to get cooked. And so the peppers that are frozen, they work great in this because their texture is going to change with the cooking anyway. So one less step here. I don't have to chop up peppers today. Some of this work is pre-done for me. There we go. I do have a few peppers that have some color on them besides green, but that's not gonna hurt anything here. So 1.5 cups of bell pepper. Then we need 3 cups of chopped onion. If you've watched other canning videos, you've seen I've been using my homegrown onions, but I have reached the tail end of those, and so I had to grab a big bag of onions at the store. It was nice while it lasted. I do really love not needing to run to the store, just go in and check my own stores and see what I have. But I am grateful for access. One of my favorite YouTube channels is a channel called Acre Homestead. I'm sure some of you probably watch Becky as well. And she talks a lot about her future self will thank her for the work she did. And that's kind of how I view this. For us in our house, we make a single batch of this, and it takes me probably 2.5 hours. But then I have 8 dinners that are sitting on my pantry shelf waiting for me. So it's definitely worth it in my book to take the time when you have it to make up a batch of something like this. And then it's there when you need it. And just for frame of reference, the last time I made a batch of this was toward the end of 2023. So I'm pretty sure I made a double batch that time and double layered my canner, and ended up with 16 jars that time. But that tells you how long it lasts us. I think we have 1 jar left in the pantry, which is why I needed to do this, because we do not want to run out. So I'm curious, do any of you have favorite canning recipes for things like this, where it's fast food you can just pull off of your shelf? I know some people like to can mostly ingredients, so you can actually can ground beef just cooked up. I've never done that because I'm not sure what I would do with it really, but we like this. We do Chipotle beef is one of our favorites. I'm trying to think what some of the others are. I have a whole list of them because we have been eating on these things for going on 2 years now. That was perfect. 2 onions was 3 cups. And so I have a bunch of things that I need to replenish on our pantry shelves. I'm actually sort of thinking about making this a series. Tell me what you guys think, but just of like home canned fast food items you can just pull off your shelf and heat up and have dinner really quickly. So our veggies, these are ready. We're just waiting for our ground beef to be finished cooking so we can add all of the rest of our ingredients. Our ground beef is nice and browned up. And so now we need to drain it and get all the excess fat off. You can see the beef I used today. It's pretty fatty. So we're gonna drain as much of that away as we can and then get the meat back in our pot. We're gonna get our meat back in here. Make sure we get it all good and scraped out of there. I don't wanna waste any of it. So now we're gonna add our 3 cups of onions. Get all of that in there. Our 1.5 cups of peppers. After our peppers, we need 2 cups of ketchup. This is one of those things I have never even tried to can because I can buy organic ketchup for cheaper than I can make it. And so I just buy it at the store. We also need 2 cups of tomato sauce. Interesting fact, I had to buy 2 small cans of tomato sauce because they were 8 ounces. The larger cans have been shrinkflationed down to 15 ounces. We need a tablespoon of, it calls for prepared mustard. I'm sure they're talking more about like just classic yellow mustard. I only have Dijon mustard in my house and that'll work fine. And I'm just eyeballing that. And then the last 2 things we're gonna add are 3/4 of a teaspoon of pepper and a tablespoon of salt. Now, the recipe calls for a tablespoon of sugar as well. I think the ketchup and the tomato sauce are sweet enough, and so I just don't feel a need to add an extra tablespoon of sugar, but you can if you want. So now we're just going to get this all mixed together, which can be a little bit of a task. And we're going to bring it to a simmer and simmer it for 5 minutes. Then it's going to be ready to go in our jars. Here, we'll get you guys in closer and give you a better look at what this looks like. I saw somewhere where they said this recipe is enough for 4 sloppy joe sandwiches. We like to eat this over French fries because we can't have the bread. And we also have made sloppy joe mac and cheese. I recently found, I think it's Daya brand, has a dairy-free cheddar cheese sauce, kind of like Velveeta. And we will mix that with a can of sloppy joes or chili, and then we'll use for us the bonsai pasta and make like a sloppy joe mac and cheese. It's so good. Our sloppy joe mixture has been simmering for 5 minutes, and so now we can get our jars filled up. It smells so good, you guys. Where is my, need this to get a hot jar out of our canner. Oh, some of them fell over on me, so might be a little bit difficult. We want to fill these to about an inch headspace. I think I might be better off with a different spoon. I think this is going to work better for us. It's all packed in here good. Use our debubbler tool. This is definitely a thicker product, and so I want to really be thorough with that debubbling. Oop. And check our headspace. Right on. I'm gonna grab a paper towel and get it damp with some vinegar. Because this is meat and definitely a bit fatty, vinegar is gonna be our friend here, cleaning the rim of our jar. Want to make sure it's nice and clean so that our lid seals well. So I did want to say, canning something like this is an area where I would for sure urge you to use something like a 4-jar lid or a Superb lid. I have had problems canning in the pressure canner with the ball lids not sealing well. And we just spend too much time and too much money to do this kind of thing to have lids that don't last. So get yourself some lids that are going to really hold up. Write this one down. Our lid on. Fingertip tight. Here you can see, guys, we ended up with 7 pints. I've actually never had this only make 7 pints before, but I use ground beef from a different store. And so you saw earlier how fatty that was. And so we just ended up with 1 less jar than normal. But I've got my lid on here and we are gonna get this coming up to temperature. So we're gonna wait for this to vent, for this to pop up, and we'll set our timer for 10 minutes. Then we can get our weight on. My canner has just finished venting for 10 minutes, so we're gonna pop our weight on. I have one of these weighted gauges, and for my elevation, I need 10 pounds of pressure. So we're just gonna pop that on there, and when it starts rocking, we can set our timer for 75 minutes. You can also can this Sloppy Joe in quart jars, and then you would want to can it for 90 minutes. I don't think I mentioned earlier, but this is actually a recipe that's approved from the Wisconsin Extension Office, the University of Wisconsin. And they actually have a booklet that's full of information about canning fish and game that you catch and hunt. And so they recommend doing this with ground beef or ground venison. So I will link that booklet that they have down below in case any of you are interested. Our timer just went off on our Sloppy Joes, and I turned the heat off. You can hear our weight is starting to slow down a little bit here. So now we're just gonna wait for the pressure to come down, for our lock to drop, and then we'll be able to open this up. I like to take the lid off and just kind of sit it a little cattywampus on the canner to let the jars kind of acclimate a little bit before I take the lid completely off and pull the jars out. So I'll do that and let it sit for about 5 minutes, and then we'll take our jars out. That extra 5 minutes I like to give this is up, so we will take that lid the rest of the way off and get our jars out of here. get them. If you are new to canning, let me give you a tip because I forgot this time around. If you live somewhere with minerals in your water, add a splash of vinegar to your canner because I am going to have a ring around these jars that I'm going to need to wash off. And a splash of vinegar would have prevented that. Not a big deal, but to me, it's just one of those things that would have been nice to have not had to deal with. So here we have it, you guys, our 7 jars of Sloppy Joes, or as I like to call it, my 7 jars of homemade fast food. So let me know what you guys think about the idea of doing a series of like homemade fast food that we can up. Because I would like to know if you're interested in that. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.